Hello everyone. So a couple days ago I was walking around and found some not too horrible looking wood in a skip and decided to go find some more and use some old scraps and make something. Initially I was just going to make some coasters or something, but in the end I ended up making a bowl. So you just saw me organize my stacks, and now I'm trying to maximize the width of working material. Our first stack consists of all of our longest pieces. Some are a bit warped from being outside, but I'm hoping that the glue up and clamping will fix that issue. Throughout this pattern there's a wide selection of woods. There's oak, mahogany, blackwood, cherry and walnut. You might recognize this similar pattern from the guitar build video that I did a while ago. Now I'm also gluing up the stacks consisting of shorter strips of scrap wood. With that and some offcuts from the guitar, we've ended up with this selection of not too disgusting looking blocks. Now intersplice that with some of that cabinet from the skip at the beginning. Some chunks are just being used so that as little as possible needs to be trimmed off the mosaic pattern in the middle. And now to glue all of these chunks together. And then we trim those slightly larger chunks such that they can be glued to other slightly larger chunks to make even bigger chunks, and so on infinitum. And finally we're ready to glue all of our large chunks into one even larger chunk. Here's our final mosaic chunk. I still need to add one more chunk so that I can get some depth into the bowl, so we're going to need to face it off with a belt sander. With that flat face now sanded in, we can glue on a couple more pieces of that cabinet fronting. I've added a couple pieces so that there's also space for the chuck to hold onto the bowl in the lathe. So let's mount this piece and get going. I then also discovered that trying to film from the same surface that a not perfectly balanced weight is spinning at a very high speed on does not work very well. So welcome to the new view. Unfortunately the angle isn't quite as nice, but it sure is a hell of a lot more stable. Just to start off, I'm roughing in the edge and the front face. After the initial rough-in, this is where we stand. You can see the curves of the bowl starting to work their magic a little bit on the outside of the bowl. I'm really hoping that this sort of thing really carries through as I carve out the inside. Then comes the incredibly enjoyable task of hand sanding. While hand sanding, I found some unfortunate tear out and gaps, so I filtered out my finest sawdust, mixed it up with some glue, and patched up the areas. Once that cured, it was back to the delightful task of sanding again. You'll notice that I've left this little nubbin in the center of the bowl. Initially that was purely structural, but the pattern kind of goes up it nicely, so I left it. And also it'll distribute nicely whatever nuts or knickknacks you end up putting in the bowl. Then for a quick wipe down before I start varnishing the bowl. Do I know why I decided to varnish the bowl before I'd even finished the base? Nope, I'm sure you don't either, but it's what I did, so that's what's happening. Now you can see me partaking in one of my worst ideas, trying to separate the bowl using a flexible, coarse-toothed saw. Whoops. You can see the saw gouged a little bit of the unfinished base, so I guess it's back to the lathe. And now to hear the sound of a very dull chisel, but I was close to the end so I couldn't be bothered to do anything about it. This time I added a bit of embellishment to the base and also undercut it so that it's more likely to sit flat on whatever surface. Don't worry, the lathe is staying turned off this time. Just snip that little guy off. To finish it off, just the very basic task of cleaning up the base and varnishing the other half of the bowl, because some idiot decided to varnish the bowl in 2 halves. I didn't have an exact plan for the pattern, but I like how it turned out. While the bowl has only actively been tested for peanuts, I'm sure it has a much wider range of capacity. For example, maybe M&Ms, Skittles, walnuts even. Only time will tell. Anyways, that's that. Hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.